Dear Reddit, what is your all-time most embarrassing moment? Recently went on a vacation with some friends plus a mutual friend who I don't know that well. Him and I took the pull-out couches, and his was right next to the bathroom. Later one night, when we were all walking around away from our hotel, I got the stomach rumbles. Then the nausea hit. I have never felt so sick in my life. It felt like someone was grabbing my insides and twisting them. The second we got back to our hotel, I made a beeline for the bathroom. Through that paper-thin wall, this guy I barely knew heard me shit pure liquid out of my ass, complete with loud, wet farts, cry, and vomit in a trash can in front of me. I spent the rest of the night shivering in bed and making runs to the bathroom. I hit the been married for a decade barrier with them in a single night. Food poisoning is a bitch. Body to laugh at me. All of this happens not 10 feet away from the table in which my crush and her friends are sitting. Everyone is having a great laugh, but my crush has the greatest laugh of all. She has fallen to the ground, with one hand bracing herself on her knees. The other hand is clutched at her ribs as she laughs so hard that no sound comes out, wheezing like an asthmatic dolphin. There is no recovery from this. I walk to the bathroom to clean myself up. The teacher could only manage to hand me my shoe along the way and continue laughing. In the bathroom the laughter didn't die down at all for what seemed like an eternity. When the bell rang I was still in the bathroom, and people were still laughing. While I spent the whole day wallowing in easily the most embarrassing moment of my life, I thought, well, maybe I'm the funny guy now and she will like that. The next morning I see my crush before class and she walks up to me. She says, "So homecoming is tomorrow." Eager to totally not talk about the shit show yesterday, I just excitedly say yes, yes it is. She then delivers a crisp, "So this guy that I actually like asked me to go to the dance. So I'm gonna go with him." To which I replied, yeah, that makes sense. I totally did not go in the bathroom and cry after that. TLDR, my crush said she would go to homecoming with me. The day before, I tripped with her lunch and face planted into a pool of random ingredients in front of the entire sophomore class. She then did not go to homecoming with me. Edit, previously I believe I have only gotten silver and gold on my comments. This is my first, second, third, and fourth platinum. My goal now is to get adamantium, dark matter, and finally Katchin. In high school, the homecoming dance was coming up. I happened to confide that I had a crush on a popular girl to another girl in my math class. Unbeknownst to me, they were very good friends and this girl offered to put in a good word for me. The next day she told me my crush would totally say yes if I asked her. So in between periods I found my crush in the hallway, asked her to homecoming, and she said yes. Booyah! Well, homecoming is on Saturday, today is Thursday. My crush, her friend and I go to lunch together and I offer to pay in the hopes that will make her like me even more. Yes, I was bad at this. She tells me she wants 2 bags of chips, burger/fries, and a small carton of chocolate milk. No problem. I go to the cafeteria and get those items like a boss. For some reason, I decide to jog over to her even though that really only shaves off like 10 seconds from my trip. I have 2 bags of chips in my mouth, one hand with a burger and fries, the other hand with a carton of chocolate milk. The girls are sitting in the common area. The common area is carpeted, adjacent to the cafeteria which has a tile floor. These rooms are separated by a relatively small metal line on the floor. As I meet that line, my left foot catches on the metal. No problem, I have another foot, I will just swing that foot forward real quick and save this. Nope, The other foot also catches. As I fall straight forward, I instinctively try to catch myself with my hands. Well, one hand has chocolate milk in it, which promptly bursts, sending chocolate milk in every direction. My other hand didn't help me either, slips on the burger in the bag and the fries go all over the place. The last thing to break my fall is my own face. The face with 2 bags of Lay's potato chips in my mouth. You know? The jokes about Lay's chips being full of air. They are true. As my face collided with the ground, both the bags of chips exploded at the same time. It sounded like a gunshot. Somehow one of my shoes flew off. I tried to melt into the floor and fade out of existence for a moment, then peeled my chocolate milk and chip-soaked face off the ground. This happened at the meeting point of the common room and the cafeteria, so everyone in both rooms either saw or heard this fiasco and looked over. About 100 students. It's deadly silent for another couple seconds, and then the laughter. Dear God, the laughter. It was like a jet engine. Every person there was laughing the hardest they have ever laughed in their whole lives. I saw the janitor doubled over laughing, bracing himself with a mop handle. A teacher was trying to walk over to help me, but she stopped every couple feet to use her hole. I was a senior in high school and my room was the upstairs with a closed staircase going down to the living room, Cape Cod style house. Anyway, brought my girlfriend home after school 'cause no one's home and we do what teenagers do. She had this thing about doggy style and me shooting all over her back, and got very vocal when she could feel that time coming. She started screaming, "Come on my back. I want to feel your hot come on my back." Okay, cool, happy to oblige. We finish and she requests a drink. Okay, cool. Throw on my sweatpants and head down the steps and turn into the living room and, not cool. My father and grandmother are sitting on the couch at the base of the steps drinking coffee. No way in hell they didn't hear that. They heard her. Oh, God, my grandmother heard my girlfriend begging for my cum. I'm literally turning red just writing this. We didn't acknowledge it though. Just a quick hi as I passed by to get a drink and damn near ran back upstairs. Edit, minor text fixes. I was on a date and we decided to go to sushi, one of those decently affordable but kinda sketchy ones. I was really craving Korean short ribs 'cause that shit is the best. Lo and behold, the sushi restaurant had it on the menu. Fantastic. I ate it, it was delicious. But on the bus ride home my tummy started to feel a little rumbly. No big deal. We would be home in 20. Well, over the course of that bus ride it turned into a grave situation. Water at the floodgates kind of thing, but I was off the bus now and we started our 5-minute walk home. I made it about 40 steps. It all started pouring out. Date was next to me, who was aware of my rumbly tum-tums, and I just said, "Oh no, it's happening." The only thing that saved me was there was an area off the side where it was dark and no one would see me. I hid until my date got back with a pair of pants. I left the shit pants behind. I'm really sorry to whoever found that. I made him swear on his mom's grave that he would never tell anyone. We broke up, and to this day I still wonder if he kept his promise. TL, Doctor, never eat anything other than Japanese food at a sushi restaurant. You will shit your pants. Edit, damn, this really blew up and I can't brag to anyone unless I reveal my secrets. Crowd, but mostly to my mother. We left the bar, and how relieved I was hearing my mom say, "That was awesome." Kudos to that bartender for pretending to be a dick, only to put on a great show, ha 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 ha. TLDR, I was finally able to say, look ma, no hands. Young ladies, points at me, 21st birthday. The whole bar erupts, super embarrassing, also I thought, until the bartender takes a seat on the bar top, with his 2 feet resting on top of 2 bar stools, and his legs spread, facing me. He turns around and pulls out a huge drink in a large hurricane glass, complete with a long banana sticking out of the top of it. Needless to say, there was no straw. Still sitting on top of the bar with his legs spread, he places this erect drink between his legs, and in front of the packed bar, he invites me to take a drink. With no hands? Now, I'm a great sport, and the bar is cheering me on. But my mother is 2 feet away from me. I looked at my sister, who shrugged and gave me the "we are in Vegas" look, so I took a deep breath and went to town on the banana with my hands behind my back, all while the bartender gives his besto face to the night I turned 21, I was in Vegas with my mother, older sister and her husband. I turned 21 technically a few minutes prior, and because we had just gotten out of a show, we walked inside the nearest bar to the theater, which happened to be a loud, packed, jungle-themed bar called Kahunaville. My family walks up to the bartender, points to me and proudly proclaims that it is my 21st birthday, expecting some kind of special treatment. The bartender visibly rolls his eyes and takes our drink orders without saying anything else. We were so turned off, but figured we could at least celebrate my first legal drink, and then go somewhere else more welcoming. After a few minutes, everyone has their drinks except for me. The bartender stands up on top of the bar top, and has a microphone. He gets the attention of the crowded bar. "Excuse me. I'd like to let everyone know that this." I hit face first into a streetlight lamp post because I was staring, while walking, at a beautiful girl walking towards the direction where I am coming from. It was in front of the main gate of our university. Hundreds of students saw it. My friends laughed hard as hell. This was during my sophomore year in math class. I sat between 2 gentlemen. I was really congested that day and thus pretty tired at the same time. I was resting my head in my hand and hunched over my math book when I felt a sneeze coming. I went to lean back but apparently didn't move quick enough when the force of this sneeze sent my face hurling into my desk. My head smacked the desk so hard that I bounced back up like a basketball. At that point I was just dizzy and like, ah. Meanwhile, the 2 guys next to me just completely lose their shit. The one on the right is howling with laughter. The one on the left has his face in his hands and is snorting. The teacher looked at us so confused and all I could say was I sneezed. Edit. Wow. This is the first time I have ever had a comment receive actual attention before. Sorry to rest of you who also banged their heads on desks. And thanks for the silver, kind strangers. I don't know if it was more cringeworthy than embarrassing, but thinking back I definitely grimace. I was in kindergarten, and was playing in the sandbox at recess one day with my friend. We were making a sandcastle but didn't have any sand that was wet enough to form a solid structure. I had been holding my pee for a while, and being 5 years old I didn't want to stop playing, so I let it out while I was sitting and promptly let my friend know that I had magically found some wet sand that we could build with, and no one was the wiser. We built a damn good castle. Sorry, Matthew. Edit, my first ever silver. Thanks, kind Redditor. And for a post that I probably should have used a throwaway for. Unfortunately, this one was recent. I ran into a longtime friend out of nowhere that I hadn't seen in years. My first thoughts were, hey, it's great to see you, wow, we're so close to graduating. That, however, is not what I said. My first words to her, after all this time, were an enthusiastic, wow. We're so gross? Going with it, she sarcastically played along and said yeah, because I'm so gross. To W hi sich upid rs ponded by Lu Keung up at T he K Leung and S aing and elongar ted true, I'm mortified just thinking about it. I couldn't get out of there quick enough. Tried to play it cool as I was chatting to my uncle, and I know for a fact he noticed because he always notices little things, but thankfully he never said a word. We are not that close, which made it all the more awkward, along with the fact I was touching my crotch way too much. I was paranoid for the rest of the day for there to be more. Edit, thank you for my first ever silver. When I was 16 I went to a water park with slides and pools and all with my uncle and 2 younger cousins. I wore a regular bikini and went swimming in some pools with my cousins for about 40 minutes. We then went to this big slide thing, and after that we got in line to do an even bigger one with my uncle too. As I'm standing in line, I hear some teenagers laugh behind me, and I turned around to see one of them pointing at me and quickly stop as they saw me stare back. I then looked down. I had bits of wet, white toilet paper all down my legs. When I was a teenager I used to always fold toilet paper and put it in my underwear to prevent discharge staining them. I must have done it automatically, and forgot I was wearing a bathing suit. I have never felt so exposed and ashamed in my life. There wasn't just a little bit. I started trying to get it off, but there was always more. I was at my friend's birthday party in high school and was super drunk. Ran up to a group of people and said, "Watch this." I then proceeded to run and dive into a bounce house only for the Velcro-lined entrance to grab my sweats/boxers and pull them down to my ankles. I'll never forget the looks of horror on their faces while I laid there on my back with my legs in the air showing off all my goodies. Frown. Sigh. I was 15 or 16, sitting at my table in my room, browsing the internet. I had one hand in my pants playing around with my random boner. It was nothing sexual, I was just keeping my hands occupied as I would if I were tapping my foot or twiddling my thumbs. So I was doing a helicopter, stretching, pulling, etc. At one point, I must have pushed against the shaft too much, because I immediately heard a click as you would hear when cracking your fingers or knuckles, and my then prominent wang started to deflate. I started panicking quite a bit, as you might think, as this had never happened to me before. I did not get a spontaneous boner for the next 2 or 3 days after that, which for a teenager, who would get them several times a day, is practically unheard of. I went to Dr. Google and thought that I had a penile fracture, though it did not look at all like the pictures, no. Purple swelling and no misshapen form. Well, I finally had the courage and sheepishly told my mom about this, and exactly how it happened. She scheduled an appointment to the urologist. I begged her not to go with me, helicopter mom, as I was already so embarrassed. I went to the urologist, and told him about the clicking, the deflation, and the lack of boners for the subsequent couple of days, leaving out exactly what caused it all. He checked me and said, "Yeah, definitely no penile fracture. Everything looks all right. Just take it easy the next time she is on top." Yeah, I actually didn't have sex. So then how did it happen? My face went absolutely red and my teenage angst went into overdrive. I sighed and awkwardly explained to him exactly what transpired. I could tell that my urologist was trying to keep a straight face while I was explaining it to him, but he just started laughing towards the end, apologizing and saying that that was the first time he's ever heard something like that in his 15 years of practicing. I just wanted to die right then and there. Not me, but a mate. He was out on a first date. According to him, on his first mouthful of food some of it hit the back of his throat and he coughed. A piece of food flew out and landed on his date's food. Apparently she didn't see the funny side. If memory serves correctly, she didn't eat any of her food. I had made a short film that had gotten into a festival and I had to travel down to Busan from Seoul on the fast train, super expensive. I was looking good, wearing cool clothes including a pair of leather shoes I had thrifted. Bad mistake. By the time I left the subway in Busan and walked 100 meters towards the theater, where I was due to give a speech, the top of one of the shoes was starting to flap. I managed to hook my big toe over it to hold it down, but the sides were now lifting up. People I was passing were starting to notice as it looked like I had a club foot. In the end, I had to take the shoe off and throw it away. I now had one shoe and a limp. This was in an area full of apartments, no shops, not even a convenience store. I hopped along, then the other shoe came apart and I had to throw that away. What the fuck should I do? I'm in an unfamiliar city, shoeless and on top of that the glue had left big black oily patches on my feet. I walked shoeless to the theater. If you know Korea at all, you know how well dressed people are. I honestly didn't know what I should do. Not go. Even though I was expected and it would ruin my reputation. I honestly felt like crying. I made it to the theater and was ushered to the front before I could explain my situation to my co-director. I had to give a speech shoeless and with oily feet to people I was trying to impress. Then I had to walk to find a store shoeless. Not the most embarrassing, but definitely stands out as one of the most hopeless situations I have been in. In the end I had to buy shoes from a department store. Not only were they $300 designer sneakers, they were too big so looked like clown shoes. I couldn't sell them because they were full of oil from my dirty feet. Worst trip of my life. In primary school, grades 1 to 6 in Australia, there was a school-wide assembly in the hall. I was a 6th grader sitting on the hard floor with my class. Then I got called up the front because I'd won an award. So I proceed to stand up, but sitting on the hard floor gave me a dead leg and my foot collapsed under me, making me immediately fall over on top of the girl that was sitting next to me. In front of the entire school. I still get embarrassed thinking about that. I've had a lot of embarrassing moments in life, but nothing quite compares to that. Edit, grammar, small details. I went to a small school, about 50 kids per grade, 2 classes per grade. I didn't get along very well with a lot of the kids there. I did not get along with the popular guy in school, but I had my small group of friends. However, there were not many girls at our school, and I didn't socialize with any of them that were worth talking to. That changed when a new girl came to our school in 6th grade. Over the first few months of school we became friends, and I got her number to talk to her outside of school. Things are going great and I end up asking her out, and she said yes. Word started getting around that we were dating, like the next day, and the popular guy in school informed me that I was too much of a loser to be dating her and that he was gonna get her to go out with him instead. He was not interested in her prior to me asking her out. Later that week a kid in our class was having a birthday party at his house and everyone in school was invited. I didn't like the kid, so I planned on not going. I asked my new GF if she was gonna go, and she said she wasn't going either, so we planned to talk on the phone that night. She called me later that night to chat. I don't remember the whole conversation, but I do remember her asking questions on why I liked her, what I liked about her, why I asked her out, etc. At some point she informed me that she didn't want to go out with me anymore, she was going to go out with the popular guy in school. Right then I heard the laughter of practically everyone in our class, but most of all I could hear the obnoxious laughter of the popular guy in school. She had called me from the party, with our whole class listening to the call, to ask me why I liked her, just to let me know she was going to date the popular kid instead of me. I had a great day at a water park, outdoor pool, and towards the afternoon a woman came up to me and whispered in my ear that I have a problem with my swimsuit. I reached behind and noticed a huge gap. The fabric was torn right in the middle and you could see my white, untanned ass crack. I was running around like this all day and no one said anything. It could have torn later in the day. That's the hope anyway. That's true, but I suspected a specific moment where it happened, on the water slide. It's interesting how my mind went wild after I found out. On the other hand, I was still kind of happy because I would have paid for the day ticket for nothing if I left after a short time. First grade, I had the curliest hair that anyone could wish for, just this big ball of curly brown hair on my head. Some older girls, 5th graders, decided that they liked my hair, too, so they kept repeatedly touching it and messing with it, ignoring my pleas for them to stop. So, being a stupid first grader, I turned my back to them, bent over and shined my entire 2 white globes at them. They ran away, and I was called into the teacher's office pretty quickly after that. My only punishment was sitting in a timeout room for the rest of the day, so I just sat there and read Harry Potter for 5 hours. It was pretty cool. I'm a shit drawer, but in grade 12 I got pretty good at drawing a cartoon Bumblebee that looked like the ones off Bee Movie. It used to be a joke with one of my friends because it was so juvenile and stupid. The whole grade was in theater taking a lesson for an upcoming exam. I had just finished drawing one and showed my friend when the teacher lecturing the whole grade stormed up and grabbed my book off me. He exhaled and held it up in front of the whole grade and said, "You're a tool." Wait, no, you're not a tool, tools are actually useful, come see me when this is over. Always stuck with me. What a horrible thing to do and say to a student. Edit, people have pointed out the "you're" so many times now, with some giving me shit for it. I was typing this quickly on my phone. It's funny how something like that bothers people so much, yet no one yet has picked up on the simple spelling mistake that I made. Many of you have found enjoyment in my extreme shame. Edit 2, thank you so much for the gold. I was at an NFL game and something I had ate earlier had just wrecked my stomach and left me with horrible gas. Like the kind which clears a room, it is so bad. I was walking up the stairs to my seat mid-game and really had to let one rip. Right then the crowd cheered and I thought the moment was right. What I didn't realize is that my ass was at the same level as a woman sitting in her seat on the aisle, and I literally farted right in her ear. I looked back at her as she looked at me with shock and disgust. I quickly turned away and climbed the stairs as fast as I could and blended into the crowd. I still think about her time to time, and how horrible that must have truly been for her, and just cringe at what an idiot I was. Edit, never thought my life's most cringeworthy moment that I had planned to take to my grave would blow up like this 10 years after it occurred. I'm glad so. Ducked into the nearest doorway and let her get a good 100 meters up the road before I continued on my way. I had something very similar happen to me. I had just got off the train to work and was strolling up the hill to the office when I felt a pressing urge to let one fly. There was no one around, so I let her rip, figuring it wouldn't be anything too out of the ordinary. But I miscalculated badly. It was a much bigger proposition than I'd thought it'd be. It was enormous. Loud, raucous, a true dog frightener. I was just in the process of congratulating myself on birthing such a monster without even breaking stride when a small woman, all dressed for the office, went hurrying by, her stilettos tacking on the concrete path. The realization didn't really hit me for about 5 seconds, but she would have been only a pace or two behind me when I let fly, and she was obviously hurrying to put as much distance between me and her as humanly possible. Oh, God. I was so bloody embarrassed. I still think of it when I walk into the offices at work. Usually when I arrive there's nobody there and I go ahead and do my thing. Walked into work, music blasting out of my earbuds, doing the footloose dance to do a swirl, and turn around to see a full conference room of people just staring at me for a solid 10 seconds. Did not know there was an early meeting that day. Giggled in class while reading about a dismembered body. They must have thought I was real crazy. I still don't think the story was bad enough to deserve that reaction, but I think it might have been the clash with my personality that did it. In middle school I won a writing competition and the second place guy came up to me and I saw that he was trying to shake my hand. Unfortunately, all I was mentally prepared for was a high five, so I ended up slapping his hand sideways. At that moment I realized what I did, so I gave a quick bye and hightailed it out of the classroom. A good addition to this is that the competition was for a scary story. The teacher said that it was fine to use gore, and that we wouldn't get in trouble. I took this as a challenge. I thought everyone else would too. No one else did. So there I am in class, reading the part describing the scraps of flesh, when I felt the need to look up. Bad idea, all of my classmates were staring at me slack-jawed in silence. Wide eyes and everything. Their expressions were so funny that I couldn't help myself when I started laughing. I still can't believe that I started talking to this girl, and I really like her. She and I are big runners and we were starting to run with each other, in the morning, once a week. Well, one week I told her it looked like we were going to have to cancel since the weather said it was going to rain. She was bummed but understood how miserable running in the rain is. Well, the next morning, the skies are clear as ever and even warm for Colorado in November. I go to check the weather only to find I looked up the weather in Washington, D.C. I have no family there, haven't been there, basically no reason to look up the weather there. We haven't run since. Got pulled up onto the stage in a strip club in Germany. They stripped me naked, tied me to a chair, and started giving me lap dances. I just went with it because, well, I don't know, I was drunk. This was in front of a ton of my friends, both male and female. Ha! My 18th saw me dragged up onto stage into a KY kiddie pool and my ass beaten raw by an Amazon wielding my own Converse like it was a hammer and I was the nail in front of a half dozen of my closest friends. Then they wrote me a happy birthday message on my back in lipstick and sent me on my way. Was yours a positive experience overall or more of a oh shit, is this really happening? When I was about 8 years old we took a field trip to the Field Museum here in Chicago. We had a lunch break and I wandered off to the gift shop to see what they had. I had a huge crush on this girl named Victoria in my class and I saw this ladybug ring for a couple of dollars. I knew she liked ladybugs and I had money my parents gave me to buy something at the shop, so I decided to buy the ring and give it to her. I was really nervous and kept waiting for the right time to do it. I eventually decided to just go for it and walked up to her near the end of the trip. She was with some of her friends, which made me more nervous, but I found the courage to do it. She looked at the ring and laughed. Her friends joined her and she then tossed the ring in the trash. I was completely devastated and tried hard to hold back my tears. Even though I'm over it now, that completely fucked my confidence with girls for a long time. Looking back, I may have embarrassed her too, giving it to her in front of her friends, which is why she reacted that way, but whatever the case, it's probably the most embarrassed I have been in my life. In 4th grade, I was asked to be in my school's spelling bee. I was the only 4th grader and youngest person that would be in it, so I practiced every day for weeks with my mom. Day finally comes, I get every single word wrong. I never attempted to spell even one letter from the words, I just stood there awkwardly and silently for about 10 seconds each time before I sulked away back into my seat without speaking a word the entire time. In front of the entire school and staff. I blanked out when the first word they asked me to spell was rotisserie. I was 12 years old, and thought everyone was long asleep. I went out in the living room, in hopes I'd find some good old softcore porn on the TV, since we had channels like that, and it was the only TV in the house with cable. I sat on the couch, sifted through channels, and found nothing. I just went to a random channel and saw one of those Girls Gone Wild late night commercials and decided that it'd do. I take all my clothes off, and start going in at it. I get to literally milliseconds from orgasming. I look to the right and see my stepdad walk out. At this point it's too late, I'm full throttle and nothing is stopping me. I make solid eye contact with my stepdad as jizz is just shooting all over my chest, and I honestly cannot describe the horror I felt. He turned around to go back to his room and we never spoke of it. When I was in primary school, I think year 5 or something, we had assembly and I got an award for something, I don't remember what. Anyway, I get up, get my award, stand there with other award recipients, and then people clap and we go back to our line. Anyway, I was just getting my glasses, right, so I'm blind, can't see well. I spend like 10 to 20 minutes in front of everyone just looking for the spot I was sitting. Nobody helped me. It was just me looking for my spot aimlessly. Eventually I found it, sat down, everyone was laughing at me. So, quick preface, we were on a field trip to the Chicago Field Museum. They had a bathroom with strange toilets, regular, and kiddie. I was busting for a piss after the hours-long bus ride, and without even looking to check, as I had no idea there even were kiddie toilets, I just thought they were oddly low at the time, and I started to, answer nature's call. Cut to half a minute or so later, and I realize with horror that Teresa puddle on the floor, and all over my pants. The kid toilets, of course, aren't designed for adults. Cut to myself spending about 2 hours trying to clean myself up, hiding in stalls when people came in. I was late for practically everything that day after that. It was mortifying, and I am now more vigilant to try and check to see what sort of toilets they have before I sit down. I had just moved to Texas, staying with my mother until I found a place. She was supposed to be at work and I had met this beautiful girl. We went out drinking, came back to the house, start getting jiggy with it, and stealthy like a ninja my mother comes walking into my room to investigate the banging in the wall, only to catch me mid-thrust. To this day, nearly 10 years later, she still tells that story to everyone and she finds it absolutely hilarious. Very funny, and stupid story when I think back on it. But once during a history class during the 8th grade someone was taunting me by taking and playing with one of my pens. There was nothing special about the pen whatsoever, and I have no clue why I cared about it so much at the time. Anyways, he attempted to throw the pen into the bin, but missed, with the pen landing slightly in front of the bin. And you know what my 13-year-old ass decided to do? Jump out of my seat and straight dive for the pen. And you know what the other person decided to do? Jump out of his seat and straight dive for the pen, landing right on top of me. We both got the scolding of our lives, but I can't help but remember this with fondness because of how thick of a New Zealand accent the teacher had, and the lengths I had to go to in order to contain my laughter. 11th grade, I was interviewing for a leadership position in a club for next year. I was really nervous and I walk in and there are a bunch of teachers there as interviewers. When I shake the first teacher's hand, instead of saying nice to see you, I said nice to look at you. Face went tomato red. I still cringe at that when I'm laying in bed at night. Edit, grammar. Crashed my skateboard and pissed myself at like midnight. I'm almost 22. I was booking it for a gas station on the corner of two busy streets near my dad's old house so I could take a piss, which I should have done before leaving my friend's apartment. Cracked sidewalk had other plans. Fortunately I don't break my phone or glasses in the fall, but I do realize that I'm not going to make it to the gas station. So I find a wall in a secluded corner of a parking lot and prepare to whip my dick out and take a piss. Only I don't manage to finish with the whipping before the floodgates open. That was a warm, moist ride home. I told my kid brother the whole story when I got home and his answer still sticks with me: you are vulgar and horrible. Good times. Line, and it's just herp. I vomit on the stage and all over my own lap in front of 300 people. The senior boy playing my counterpart, the gander, accidentally whispered "oh shit" into his mic, and rubbed my back to try and calm me down. That was nice of him. Somehow I got off stage and puked the rest of my guts out into the bathroom. The drama club teacher was nice enough to let me know she wouldn't charge me for the pukey costume. TL, doctor, laughed in front of half the school. 10 years later and it still haunts me. I was a theatre kid and didn't have stage fright or anything. But when I was a freshman in high school, I had my first panic attack hours before I was to play the goose in our production of Charlotte's Web. I also have chronic migraine, and it caused a big one, complete with excruciating pain, light and sound sensitivity, and lots of nausea. And I had forgotten my prescription painkillers at home, so I was stuck with it. It was a bad day. I tried to push through it all and got into costume, and a full face of goose makeup. I'm feeling horrible, but the show must go on. As soon as I walk out for Mount First scene, bright stage lights are piercing into my head. And a wave of nausea just courses through me. I had to be on stage about 5 minutes for that first scene. Tried to swallow it down between lines. A lot of my classmates were out in the audience, too. I opened my mouth to say my last. My older cousin has a wife that is, Well, moving on, we were at a Super Bowl party when I was a young boy. I think I was 12, a terribly socially anxious young man, and we were both getting some food. I attempted to say, did they, everyone at the party, eat all the food yet? I stumbled on my words and for some reason said, did you eat all the food yet? I got chewed out and felt terrible. It still haunts me at night. Edit, apparently no one on Reddit has read a book or a game's subtitles. You know when you start to say something but decide not to. Yeah, good thing your wife isn't alive, anim, She's fat. I was trying not to say that she's fat. I was 16. I was playing the piano in front of the entire school and I'd forgotten my music. I thought it was fine because I'd been playing this piece by heart for months, but I forgot it halfway through. I tentatively played a few chords but I just couldn't remember. So I just went oh shit really loudly and laughed awkwardly. The second I did that I remembered and finished off my piece. Then I went home and cried for 3 hours. Since then, I have only played the piano in public once. I used to play in competitions and so on, and that was for my friend's wedding last year. 8 years after the fact. I was so nervous on the run-up I couldn't eat properly for 2 months, and on the morning of I secretly went and threw up a few times. Fortunately, it went off without a hitch. I was 13 years old. Paid this kid in my class $10 to tell this girl also in my class that I like her and if she would go out with me. The stupid motherfucker told her that I paid him and she never confronted me about it until 8th grade graduation a few months later. Ha ha ha, nope. The whole confrontation was awkward as hell. Her response, hey Squeer, did you pay, stupid motherfucker, money to say that you wanna go out with me? And she sounded very disgusted. I admitted how stupid it was of me to do and that people make mistakes. My sophomore year of high school I had a crush on a girl that I had a class with. We talked a few times but I didn't know her that well. It was around Valentine's Day and our school did a thing where you could pay $10 and student volunteers would go sing a song you picked, in class, to whoever you picked, and give them a card. So instead of approaching her like a normal person for a date I decided to go with the singing Valentine. I plunked down my $10, signed up, and started getting extremely nervous about the next day. That afternoon I told my friend what I'd done and he started laughing. And laughing. More than if he were just laughing at a bad idea. Finally he told me that the girl had a boyfriend, he was a senior, and I was an idiot. The next morning I explained the situation to a friend of mine that was involved in the program, and after he finished laughing he told me it was too late. Singing assignments were out, it was going to happen. My only hope was that, since singers and time are limited, they wouldn't get to mine, which is a thing that would sometimes happen and you got your $10 back and not humiliated. So our class together rolls around, which of course I had sent it to that one, and I start watching the clock. A couple other people got the singing Valentines but with about 10 minutes left mine still hadn't come. Then the door opened. And instead of the one person with a boom box we normally had there were 3. One was the guy I had begged to cancel it, who gave me the biggest smile as they set up. Now, song options had been limited. This was before streaming existed so it was just what they happened to have CDs of. I honestly didn't know most of the songs, and didn't want to go sappy, so I went with the one higher tempo song I knew. Wild Thing. So they announced who the Valentine was for and she blushed, I'm sure assuming it was from her boyfriend. They started singing and she blushed harder. They handed her the card that I had written my name in and her face stopped being pink and went far more red. She looked over at me and all I could do was shrug. After they left she said, out loud, but Chewy, I have a boyfriend. And then everyone knew it was from me. I just muttered that I'd found out too late and happy Valentine's Day and I'm sorry. That was the most embarrassed I've ever been. Edit, well that blew up. To answer a couple questions, no, we never ended up going out or anything. We're both happily married to other people now. I assume her boyfriend found out but I don't think he knew who I was and I never heard anything from him about it. I don't know if he sent her one in another class or not. Yes, my friend is a dick for not cancelling it, but that's what friends do. Also thanks for the gold. Edit 2. Looking back, the correct play would have been to tell her before class what had happened and tell her to pretend it was from her boyfriend. So if you ever find yourself in this situation, I guess do that. She totally could have just done you a solid and not said anything. I thought you were going to pull a nice little cushioned twist like she then covered and acted as if it was from her boyfriend, knowing it was really from me, but nope, she fucking wrecked you. Good story, dude. I'm so sorry. Laughing, and that's how I molested an old man in a truck stop bathroom. On a road trip with some friends. We stop for gas and a bathroom break. I walk into the empty men's room with my best bud right behind me, and I take the closest of the 3 urinals. In a rare break from bro code, my buddy takes the one right next to me, but the urinals have dividers, so not a major infraction, but still, I want to teach him a lesson. So as he's in full stream, I reach around the divider and grab his elbow and shake the hell out of it, in an attempt to get him to piss all over himself. Suddenly I hear this strange voice say, "Well, I didn't know you wanted to hold my hand." I slowly lean back and look to my left, only to see my buddy at the far urinal leaning back and looking at me. Oh my god. Turns out an elderly man had ghosted into the restroom between me and my buddy, and took the urinal between us. He actually thought it was funny. My buddy collapsed in the corner. Phone my husband and explain that I burnt down half the front paddock and there were 3 fire trucks there right at that moment. That wasn't enough to get him to come home though, he stayed and watched the game. Then at work on Monday I had to explain to our Sesam, big bad fire boss man, that it had, in fact, been my place that the emergency call came from, and yes, it was me who let a controlled burn get away from me. I've still not lived it down, and am even more terrified now of fire now that I've seen how quickly it can get out of control. I still have to do burns every year, but now I have a 3-meter fire break around them and take every precaution I can. It was our first year at our new property and it's in a rural area, so we have to do fire breaks. I had never done a controlled burn before and was terrified of doing one. I was worried that I'd burn down the neighborhood, but after weeks of raking leaves and carting them from one paddock to another where the bonfire pile was, I decided that enough was enough and I was going to have a go. I work for the local shire and got some advice from our rangers: start small, rake a fire break around the area, etc., and so I spent one weekend successfully burning off 3 small areas, only a couple of meters wide. The final weekend, that we could burn off before permits were required, and I knew I had to get a little more done. However, it was the AFL Grand Final and my husband was going out. I thought, fuck it, it's gotta be done, so I headed out and began merrily burning off a few of my neighbors were also out doing burning off, and we waved and called hello, and I was feeling really accomplished. And then it all went wrong. There had been no wind, and the area I was doing was about to go out. I was waiting for it to die before I reignited it. One of the tips I was given was make sure there was only one ignition point, when suddenly the wind just picked up out of nowhere. Within a second, my fire had jumped clear across my fire break and caught in the grass, and I threw all the water I had at it, buckets and a backpack sprayer, but it was out of control instantly. I looked around, but none of my neighbors were outside still. The footy had started and they were all inside watching the game, so I immediately called 000 and got the fireys out. I had to sit on my rock of shame and watch as they stopped the fire from spreading to my neighbors and mop up, as well as. This will probably get buried, but it happened recently and I'm still trying to get over it. I've been dating my boyfriend for less than a year, we are still extremely in the loved-up honeymoon stage where we fancy the pants off each other, and try our best to pretend that bodily functions do not exist around the other person. The other night he was due to come over, but I felt a bit poorly. No big deal, I probably just ate something my body didn't like. I threw up a couple of times before he got to mine and felt better for it. I texted him saying I had been a bit ill, so it was up to him if he still wanted to come over. Of course he does, he misses me and wants to look after me. Cute, right? Well, what happened that night was not cute. He turns up right as I am in the bathroom puking. The most horrible noises are coming out of me, and he can hear everything. When I'm finished he hair. What a babe. I would love to say that this story ends there, but readers, it gets so much worse. My illness progresses. I rush off to the bathroom every 10 minutes to shit and puke at the same time. I've got my routine down, and have a sick bowl ready next to the toilet so I can poop and chunder without creating a mess. That is, until I get complacent. I think the worst of it is over. Back in bed, I allow myself a sip of water. Up until this point, I have usually had enough awareness of knowing I am going to be sick to give me the time to run to the bathroom, throw my pants down, sit on the toilet and grab the sick bowl. Not this time? This fateful sip of water pushes me over the edge. I have a sick bowl next to my bed, and I lean over just in time to throw up spectacularly into it. However, we have already established that the act of throwing up also makes me shit. This is a problem. Readers, I shit the bed. I, a 25-year-old female, in front of my lovely boyfriend who I fancy the pants off, shit myself, in my own bed. I shat myself. In bed. The bed my boyfriend is lying in. I burst into tears. I tell my boyfriend to face the wall while I go to the bathroom to sort myself out, and to not dare even look at the bed while I'm gone. I get sidetracked while I'm in there by A, wondering how my life has reached such a new low, and B, shitting and puking some more. While I'm in the bathroom, my angel of a boyfriend not only strips the bed and puts new sheets on, but he also goes and takes the carrier bag of my shit-soaked clothes and sheets out to the bins for me. He then later goes out to the supermarket at 1 a.m, because I am crying over how thirsty I am but how I can't drink water because it'll make me throw up, and comes back with ice cubes and ice lollies to try. Quench my thirst. I am going to marry the shit out of him one day. TLDR, in relatively new relationship, shit myself while puking in front of my boyfriend. Once I recover from embarrassment of that, I then shit myself in the bed he is lying in. Makes me a hot water bottle and gets me some water, strokes my hair and does all the usual cutesy stuff, but my body was just getting started. I run out of bed to the bathroom and throw up again into the toilet in a frankly quite impressive projectile stream of chunder. It goes everywhere, with only half of it actually reaching the toilet. However, the motion of throwing up causes me to violently shit myself. Warm, liquid shit is pouring down my leg, but I have no choice but to let it happen and carry on vomiting. Shit is seeping out of my tracky bottoms and pooling onto the, thankfully tiled, bathroom floor. Once I've finished vomiting, I look around and assess the damage and realize there's no way I can resolve this on my own. I meekly call out to my poor boyfriend and ask him to bring me a towel and a carrier bag. I open the door the smallest amount to get the items from him so he can't see the mess I've made, but he, correctly, assumes I want the towel because I am going to shower, so he, sweetly, insists on helping me to shower, opening the door wide to let himself in. Did I mention I'm on my period too at this point? Picture the scene. A bathroom that smells like the swamps of hell. Purple vomit is everywhere. Me stood completely naked, pale as a ghost, flecks of said purple vomit in my hair and with liquid yellow shit running down my leg. In front of the toilet is a pool of liquid in varying shades of brown that is unmistakably human shit. In a corner is a pile of shit-stained clothes, with a pair of soiled underwear and a sanitary towel, that is covered in both period blood and poo on top. My boyfriend sees it all. He is a champ. At my insistence he gives me a couple of minutes alone to clean up, before helping me into the shower and washing me in my. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. We were having mass or whatever for like Ash Wednesday, and we had Father something or other do a special sermon. I never really paid attention to the religious stuff. Anywho, he's really tiny and awkward, and he begins by leading with a joke. I'm a Roman Catholic, and I'm a Roman over here. Well, I think that's the funniest thing and begin to laugh maniacally for a solid minute. I'm talking uncontrollable, folded over crying. No one else laughed. All my teachers and classmates, all 200 plus in our auditorium, stare at me like I'm in something. And poor Father something or other looks really embarrassed. It dawns on me that I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Nevertheless, I get up on stage and I am absolutely shitting myself. The rest of my group start playing the piece and it sounds amazing, but people begin to stare at me because I'm doing nothing at all. I realize I can't sit there and do nothing, so I just start twanging away at the strings with no idea what sound they would make. Safe to say my random bings and bongs ruin the entire performance. Everyone's laughing at me throughout the song apart from the rest of my group and the teacher. The girl was in tears and the teacher gave me a detention for making a mockery of her project. She thought I was playing deliberately badly. Embarrassment is an understatement. Looking back, I don't know why I didn't just learn the damn music. When I was about 14 or 15, we had a group music project in school. We had to write a piece of music and then perform it to about half the year, roughly 90 kids. I got put in a group with a girl that I had a huge crush on at the time. She was the musical type, so she took charge of the project. Her first question was, can anyone play an instrument? My first thought was to mention the bass guitar that I had got just 1 week before, knowing full well I could barely play a note. She came up with this piece of music for us to perform, and asked if I could play what she'd written on the bass. I was trying to impress this girl, so of course I said yes. A few weeks go by and I'd managed to bluff my way through rehearsal with excuses like I forgot my bass at home or fake sicknesses. Somehow this girl still had faith in me that I was some heroic bassist. Performance day comes round and brother's friend's pants/underwear when he hurt himself falling over. When I was like 9 years old, my mum accidentally gave me my brother's lunch. We went to the same school and I walked over to his classroom, grade 6, to swap it over. At the time my mum had my hair cut really short because I kept getting head lice that she couldn't get rid of. I was a white girl with a short curly afro pretty much. I knocked on the door and when I opened it, the teacher, who was a grown-ass 40-plus-year-old man, pointed at me and said, "What's up with her hair?" and started laughing hysterically. And then the entire classroom of 20-plus children proceeded to all erupt into laughter and pointing towards me too. I just looked at my brother and in a defeated way said, "Mum mixed up our lunches." Closed the door and stood outside until my brother came out. Fuck that teacher. He ended up getting fired for acting creepily around the girls, sleeping during class and looking down my.
Hey guys, this is the Rogue YouTuber here. I recently had a big change in my life. I had a baby daughter. Here she is. If you could do me a favor and remember to hit the subscribe button and bang the bell, I'm hoping to really create a YouTube channel that really gets people excited and brings people the best, most interesting content collated from across the internet. I'm saving up to save my little girl to Carnegie Mellon Computer Science Department. So please remember to like and subscribe. See you next time.